Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Listen and grow as Del questions the status quo, encourages you to think differently, and empowers you to make a better life. Get ready as Del challenges core beliefs, seeks the truth, and reveals the roadmap to the lifestyle you really want. And now your host, multi-millionaire, national award-winning investor, CEO and founder of Lifestyles Unlimited, Del Walmsley.
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. With me today here on Tell Del Tuesdays, one of the most interesting people you'll ever meet. If you've ever seen that commercial, the most interesting man in the world, this is very close, if there really is one, to that type of an individual. This individual has been with us for quite a while. He's one of my best mentors, but more importantly than that, he's one of the most interesting men in the world. What do I mean by that? It's one of the few people I've ever had envious situations for, and that is his quality of life. Remember, it's not the money, it's the lifestyle, and this gentleman has had the quality of lifestyle for the last 20 years. With me today here is my mentor out of Houston, Texas, single family, Sorrell Warren. Sorrell, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Del. Thanks for having me on. And wow, that's a great introduction. I hope I can live up to that.
Why did you quit your job? Tell us. I mean, think about this. Your job was in charge of seeing the world. Oh my gosh. You must have been just about... How many places have you traveled?
I have been to all 50 states and 98 countries with my bucket list goal to 100 countries coming in September when I go to Cyprus and Israel.
Unbelievable. Congratulations. Unbelievable. Like I said, there's not very many people I'm envious of. Because another 5,000, 10,000, or 5 million in my checkbook won't mean that I could ever have accomplished that type of a bucket list. That's incredible. So you're in that job and in that business for a living. Why don't you pick it up and talk about, you did 30 years of working as a sales guy. Now you're vice president of a travel company all over the world. Let's talk about that. How could being in a dream job like that you're good at, how could that even in itself get to feel like a cubicle? I mean, how can traveling the world feel like a cubicle or a rat ring? I don't get it, man.
I did love the job, and I got to a lot of benefits from the job. I got to travel pretty extensively in the job in some really great places, some really great opportunities. But I was still working about 50 hours a week. And so when I realized from joining Lifestyles Unlimited, I realized in less than 4 years that my real estate income had equaled my work income. I decided to leave the job. That way I could travel extensively and not have to work the 50 hours a week that I've been working.
So there you are. You've replaced your income while you're still working. Now, that's an interesting approach. You're a mentor right now. How often do you see people approaching it that way, especially since you're in single family? Is that pretty common? People come in and they start building up their passive income to try to equal out to their earned income? Is that a pretty common approach to this?
Yeah, that's what most people are doing. I started in single family, and then 2 years into it, I moved to multifamily also. So I retired with a mixture of single family and multifamily. I've worked with many members. I've been a mentor for almost 5 years now. And I've worked with some people who've been able to retire just from single family. But a lot of members, kind of the ultimate goal is for most members is to move to multifamily. And so I've worked with many members and we go through that transition from single family into multifamily.
Okay, so you see it working both ways for people? Is that what you're really saying?
For some. It depends on what the income level you're looking to replace. If they're kind of a moderate income earner, it can probably be done strictly with single family. And the ones I know, that's what they're doing. That if they've done it strictly through single family, they're replacing a fairly moderate income. For the more upper income individuals or families, they very likely will move into some form of multifamily, whether it's IRA, passive, and even some have gone into lead straight from single family.
All right. Since that's such an important part, let's clarify that again on yours. Did you do it all through single, or did you? I thought I heard you say you did it single and then decided to get in some passive multi also, or how did that work?
I did. I started in single family, and in my first year, I think I had 5 single family homes, and I was looking to buy 1 or 2 more. And talking to my mentor at the time, and we decided I should look at the multifamily opportunities. And I actually found a IRO, and John Ridgway was my mentor. Jeff Smith was my realtor at the time, and I found an IRO down in Galveston and went under contract on that one. And the seller wouldn't cooperate. It was a lot of back and forth, a lot of trouble, a lot of going to Galveston. I was still working full time, so I ended up backing out of that one and realized I'd put in a lot of work and during my due diligence period to not get a property. And I thought, this passive thing is sounding a lot better. So within probably a couple of months after getting out of that IRO, I went into my first passive investment.
For those of you out there listening who don't know what an IRO means, that's an abbreviation we have for IRO. We call IRO, which is basically independent real estate owner, meaning instead of buying an apartment complex as a syndication, you buy a smaller one that you can afford to buy by yourself. And so you're an independent real estate owner as opposed to a syndicator. Sorrell, let's talk about here, if we could, what kind of deals are we seeing on the single-family housing that you're mentoring people on right now? What can we look forward to as far as a cash flow, and what can we look forward to as captured equity?
Well, the cash flow has dropped dramatically in the last probably 18 months as the interest rates have shot up. Even 18 months ago, we were still cash flowing over, I think the average was about 430 here in the Houston market. And that is now down into the low 200s simply because the interest rate has doubled. But the good part of that is that equity capture is a lot higher than it used to be. And so now properties have 100% return on equity, meaning if your out of pocket is $22,000, your equity capture can be $22,000 to $30,000. And so the Lifestyles method had been, most of my tenure as a member was buy properties. Most people were buying for the cash flow, hold those properties for 3 to 5 years, and whatever made sense during that time, and then either sell, and then usually sell those properties. And now with this high equity capture, members are finding they can get that money out either through a sale or a refi, and sometimes it's just a little over a year or sometimes 18 months. So many members are going through that cycle is now starting to hit where they're going through 1 year. That lease is expiring and they have options available to them now. They can cash out, get that money out and buy a second property, or sell that property and buy 2 properties. So even though cash flow is low because of high equity, they're still able to maximize that cash flow in a little over a year now.
Wow, that's amazing. Because when I started, we had that low cash flow too because our interest rates were like 9, 10, 11, and 12. I don't know if you remember Jimmy Carter days. You're not quite as old as I am, but you almost.
In the late 80s, early 90s, I don't remember, but the interest rate was like 9%, and I thought that was great.
Yeah, we thought 9 was great. That's right. I love that. It used to be 12, so 9 was like, my gosh, they're giving money away. We better buy something, right? So, yeah, with all of my houses, I only had, like I said, $220 a month positive cash flow. So that I get that when the interest rates go up that high that there's not as much cash flow. But the equity thing really blows my mind away, that you're able to buy stuff with that much equity. And I assume that's because the market has been such that they've shut down homeowners. They can't buy. There's not the same amount of competitors there against you because they don't qualify for loans anymore. So that is leaving some of this stuff that you would have had to fight a little harder for to find. You're getting it much easier now. So that's great. When you talk to a person about their plan, do you guys ever talk to them about how quickly to buy? Does that ever come up? In other words, should I buy once a year, 1 a quarter, 1 a month? Or obviously, I'm sure that's individual, but what kinds of discussions come to mind when I bring that point up to you?
Absolutely. We want them to, because one of the first things we do in the initial meeting is we determine what their starting position is, how much cash do they have, and we look at all parts of it, actual liquid cash, and then we look at any kind of stocks or things that are non-retirement. Then we look at the retirement, and we look at equity in their primary residence, and so we want to see all the money that they have available that's not really generating any kind of income for them, and so that determines, first of all, how many properties they can buy. And then, first of all, we want everybody to be educated. So once they go through the education, then it's how quickly do they want to move. And just like you talk about, I took the 2-day from you initially and several times since then, but the type A's and the type B's. So sometimes we have to slow down the type A's who want to jump out there, and sometimes we have to kind of do a little kick to the type B's that are just kind of stuck in analysis paralysis. And so I talked to a member yesterday. He wanted to buy 2 properties. He's fresh out of the 2-day training, and he wants to buy 2 properties. He has the money to do it, but I had to slow him down a little bit. He was looking at 2, and the numbers looked good. But I said, okay, let's get the first one, and get that one started, and then look at the second one. And they were good properties, but they weren't spectacular properties. I didn't see any need to do that. I'll talk to other members sometimes, and they're looking at the one property, and it meets it's better than their criteria, but they're afraid to pull the trigger. So we teach to get the money working for you, and when you're comfortable, get the first one done as quickly as you complete the education, and you're ready to go. And once that one's going, and depends on the lender, some lenders will let members buy 2 at the same time. Some prefer they get the one completed, have a signed lease before they do the second one. But if that's the case, get that done. Now, many members, even the type Bs, it's kind of becomes addicting. Once they get the first one and they've gone through it successfully, then most people are ready for the second one.
It's as I sit and listen to this and remember back to when I was a mentor, and also back to when I was buying myself, the point you brought up about don't buy 2 together at the first time is, I have an additional point to add to that. I've seen people in the past get knocked out of this whole business because they did too much too quickly and got too many balls in the air, and all of a sudden one ball dropped. And if you're out there juggling these balls to get this deal closed, and one ball drops, and you've only got one set of balls to play with, you can regroup. You get your mentor. We jump on it, and we get that thing settled and fixed, and boom, you're just going down the road. It's a little hiccup. But you get that going, and you've got 2 other deals going, and heaven forbid you drop a ball on 2 deals at the same time. It's mind-boggling to people. They just can't adjust that quick. But once a person has done a deal, and they've now been through the entire process once, they have their team in place, then it's possible to up that speed of acquisition. Would you agree?
Absolutely. That's almost exactly the conversation I had yesterday with a member. And I said, what if something happens on both properties at the same time? And he thought, I hadn't thought of that. But that's exactly what the conversation was. And I said, now after you buy the first one, you might look at buying 2 and 3 at the same time. But let's get through the first one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's talk now for people listening in for the first time. Remember, these are people that haven't been through the 2-day Sorrell. We're speaking to the general audience out there, so it's not even as educated as even a case study would be. So when we get back, we're going to go over some more stuff, but we're going to make sure we can get it to everybody's level of understanding. We're going to take a short break. Be right back with Sorrell Warren and the Del Walmsley Radio Show.
Teaching you with a roadmap to creating the lifestyle you really want. Keep listening. The Del Walmsley Radio Show returns in moments.
We went from 100% live to 100% virtual. And the funny thing is that nobody wants to go back to work now that they work from home, right? So now my members are like, well, Del, we want to keep those virtual things open because now I know all the people in Miami and I know all the people in Chicago. I know all the people now know each other from all over the country because of these virtual events.
The free workshop, How to Retire in 5 Years or Less, is online. Go to lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
You're hearing the Del Walmsley Radio Show. Want more life-changing knowledge? Access our podcast and listen on demand at lifestylesunlimited.com under the radio tab. Now your host, Del Walmsley.
Welcome back to the Del Walmsley Radio Show. With me here today on Tell Del Tuesdays, Sorrell Warren out of Houston, Texas. Sorrell has traveled the world. He's been to all 50 states, the United States, and 98 different countries. He's got 2 more on his bucket list, and he says he's going to knock those out very quickly or very soon. Just flipping directions here for just a second. Whenever I'm lucky enough to travel, my problem with travel is not I can't afford it. It's not that I don't have to take off time. I have no problem with time and I have no problem with money. I have a wife, and she and her luggage weigh 8,000 pounds everywhere I go. Slows me down quite a bit. You get out there and you've got to travel. My question to you is, do you ever run into any Lifestyles members? Because even I, with my wimpy amount of travel, almost everywhere I go, I run into one person that's a Lifestyles member. Have you ever run into any?
I have twice, actually. It was before COVID. So I was on a scuba dive trip, and everyone was from Houston, and I knew maybe 2 of the, I think, 14 people on the trip before the trip was before I got there. And so you're just going around talking to everybody, getting to know people. And so I'm talking to one of the guys on the boat, and we're on a boat going out to dive that day. And he mentions that he was an audiologist, a doctor of hearing. And then we got interrupted, and I'm talking to him later that day or the next day, and he says that he's easing out and selling his clinics because he started doing real estate investing. And I said, oh, interesting, me too. And then he said something about having these, he listed a specific number. Again, it was before COVID, I don't remember the number, the number of clinics he was selling. And I said, wait a minute, are you in Lifestyles Unlimited? And he says, yes. I said, did you do a case study about 3 or 4 months ago? Turns out we were at the same case study on the same night, and we met on a dive boat in somewhere. I don't remember where exactly we were, but I think Cozumel. But we just got to talking, and that's how it came up.
Small world. So here you are. You get to touch those people. So what does that make you feel like? Because you've come from that world, successful business person. Now you meet other successful business people. And, of course, the average person, housewife, whatever. And they're coming to you. And really, since they're starting a single family and they're starting with you, they're probably the beginner investors, probably scared to death, most times really excited. How does that make you feel that you are right there, almost like a gatekeeper into a new world?
Yeah, I absolutely love it, and that's the reason I do this. I absolutely love working with people in that situation, and just helping them. They've as we say, not necessarily drank the Kool-Aid just yet, but they understand it. When they get to me as a mentor, when they get to any of the mentors, they've been to probably the free workshop, they've done the 2-day training, they understand the program, but like you say, they're still nervous. Does it actually work? And if it does work, can I do it? And that's the part where mentors can take over, and we can help ease some of that fear that they may have. And by, like I said, we lay out the plan. You are here today. You want to get to this much income. You want to retire one spouse and then the second spouse. And now let's lay out the plan to get you from A to B. And once we start crystallizing the path, sometimes you'll see the kind of, they just relax, and you'll see the kind of some of the fear leave, and not just laying out the plan. We lay out step-by-step instructions, and then we're here every step of the way with them to help them, guide them, and answer questions. And so that's the part I love about it. And now that I've been doing this for almost 5 years, I've actually seen quite a few people that's gone through the entire cycle of being able to do the retirement.
That's always neat when you see them come out the other end and know that you were the one that plugged them in the beginning. That's good stuff. When you were in corporate America, I think being the position you're in, you probably were training staff and whatever. Did you know you were a natural born teacher? Were you aware of that?
I didn't at first, but I was in sales, and sales has deservedly so a bad reputation. I was in sales for over 30 years. And I even knew lots of horrible salespeople, horrible people in general that happened to be in sales. And I never wanted to be one of those. I always wanted to lead my life with integrity, lead my sales life with integrity. And even I worked in some pretty harsh environments before I ended up at the travel company in 2002, I believe. I still wanted to do everything with integrity. And so even then, I took some Zig Ziglar classes 30 plus years ago, and that was kind of my moral basis of being a good salesperson. And that also stemmed, of course, from my parents teaching me as a kid the right way to do things. And so my primary mission in sales was to educate people, not necessarily from a teaching standpoint, but just educate people about the product and here's why you need this product and what this product can do for you. And I proudly say that I've never sold anything to someone who didn't need it. And then when I got into the travel company, in customer service, I was, in charge of kind of taking care of things on the back end. But the biggest thing that I loved about that position was teaching our agents up front to give the right service, dot all the I's and cross all the T's to minimize mistakes going forward. And so from that aspect, I've looking backwards, I didn't think of that as teaching at the time, but looking backwards, I absolutely could see that I was teaching in those types of situations.
Sorrell, I just wanted to ask you this. I'm all over the place with you because I don't know which is more interesting, your real estate knowledge and expertise or your travel knowledge and expertise, but I'm just curious. Let's go to the lifestyle of lifestyles for just a second. How many different physical activities have you touched? What I mean is, I know you're a scuba diver. I know that for a fact.
Well, I love zip lining. That's one of my passions. I sail. I used to have a sailboat, but that was years ago. Sailboats are a pain in the the wallet, so I rent them now occasionally. I'm a member of a ski club here in Houston, but I do not ski. But we do a lot of other activities. And I'm a golfer. I don't know if I said that already. I love any kind of water sports, jet skiing, and you name it. I have run marathons. That was 30 years ago, but I'm training again. I'm starting to do some walking. I've walked some. I've had knee replacement surgery, so I can never run, but I'm walking, so I'm probably going to walk some half marathons. And I'm actually in the process of planning to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro in the near future.
Man, amazing.
And then we have one kind of passion in common, Dell, and we know one of the same people. I'm also taking a lot of country western and West Coast swing dance lessons.
No kidding, you got into that, huh? That is really enjoyable.
Well, I started that over 30 years ago, and we know Mario, one of our mutual friends.
Mario's the king. I don't even mind giving him free advertising. Mario is the king. If you want to learn how to dance, Mario's the man that not only has won many, many contests when he was younger, he's got this held the community together for years. And by the way, he's a member too, Sorrell.
Yes, and I ran into him at a case study one night a couple of years ago, well before COVID.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you are the epitome. I mean, we're gonna have to get some of your pictures and just post them. This is the epitome of what lifestyle should be like. And not everybody's a travel guy. I know that, but it is one of those things, especially if you throw in all these different physical activities you can do in addition to it. We've only got a few minutes left. I could talk to you all day long. Don't even get me off on telling your stories. But let's talk for a second here. When you went in to decide to go passive investing, were you a jockey or the horse kind of guy? And for those out there that don't know what I'm talking about, were you more interested in how good the lead investor was, the syndicator, or were you more interested in how good the deal was? So how did you see that mix?
I was absolutely the jockey guy, and looking at the person. I looked at a lot of properties. Now, this was 7 years ago, so there were a lot less lead investors at the time. But I looked at a lot of people, And through training and going with the talking to the mentors and the consultants, and I didn't come up with the idea of my own. I'm sure I was taught this, but a good investor, a good lead can turn an average property into a great property, and a bad lead can turn a great property into a bad property. And so I look at the lead first, by all means, first and foremost. And then after I find the great leads, then I'll look at the properties. But I don't care how great the property is if there's not a good lead, a great lead, presenting it to me.
Okay. And the next question I have for you is an impossible one to answer because I've never got a straight answer from anybody on it yet. I'm going to throw it at you anyway. And that is, how much is enough? Being the situation that you're a mentor, I've asked you to come back and give back. So, I mean, if you weren't doing this, you'd be out traveling or you'd be bored at home or whatever. But we've asked you to come back. But still, as well as I know, there's another deal to be done. I'm closing on one this week. I'm looking at buying another one next month that's up for sale right now. When is enough, Sorrell?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was a fairly easy decision in that, like I said, my passion is fun and travel, and I hit the number that would allow me to live my passions. I could have worked harder. I could have worked possibly longer at my career and left in a better financial position, or I could have done more with my real estate. But I was very comfortable with having my expenses met, having my travel budget, and then, being able to still grow my income. And so I don't have that same need as a lot of people I know, a lot of friends of mine in Lifestyles Unlimited that are continuing to go more and more and more and more. I live a fairly modest life. I mean, I live a lot better life than the average person, but I did not need to have the excess, and I don't need the kind of the glory of the next best thing. So for me, it was a pretty simple decision, even probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Hey, I appreciate you coming back. Everybody else out there, remember this. It's not the money, it's the lifestyle. Have a wonderful day.
The information and opinions you hear on the Del Walmsley Radio Show are those of the host, Del Walmsley, his guests, and his callers. The Del Walmsley Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Del Walmsley Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.